Never have I played a game where every single match I go into is so exciting and so tense without fail. Insurgency Sandstorm is one of those IPs that you never can have a boring game of. Yes, if you're terrible at the game, you might face some difficulties, but you will never be bored. And that's what I love about it. But years on after its release, Insurgency Sandstorm is still going strong. Some may say stronger than ever. With mods, new maps, new game modes, it's a game that you can go back to at any point and get a new experience and it be just as good as the one before. And that's why I think Insurgency Sandstorm did development right. When the first Insurgency came out in 2014, it was a massive hit. On the Source engine, it was something that was new, different. It was almost as if you put the gameplay that Counter-Strike had made successful and popular and put it in the body of Arma 3. This ultra-realistic, ultra-simulation military warfare mode that caught people's attention. It didn't matter if there were inter-simulators before, this was something to bridge that gap between the casual and the competitive player. Having completely limited HUD, no kill feed, so the only way of confirming a kill is to see the physical body, having bullets splitting over your head, shrapnel hitting you from grenades that go off in the next room, not being able to see when you're flashed and it really feels like your head is concussed from every direction, going down in 1 or 2 hits and not knowing where you're being shot from most of the time. It sounds enraging, but it is brilliant. And because of the success of the original Insurgency, of course we got Insurgency Sandstorm. And boy, this was one game that I could not wait for. I remember when the announcement trailer came out, I was over excited. And I don't get that excited for most games, but they ported from the Source engine to Unreal 4, bringing in a whole new era of graphical fidelity to this first-person, let's be honest, small team game. The new sound design, the new maps, and also harking back to some maps of old. This was going to be fantastic. And it was. On release, the game was very popular, much like the one before it. It wasn't mainstream, but it had this very hardcore and dedicated fan base to it, I being one of them. And throughout time, the developers kept adding to it. Regular updates throughout the year, bringing in new maps, old maps, new location, new settings, new weather that completely changes the way you play. They've just brought out an update that adds snowy maps to it, which you may think, that doesn't make much of a difference. Oh, trust me, it does. Especially when the enemy now have snow camo and you don't. Not only the maps and locations, but a constant addition of new weapons and add-ons for you to try out. I personally am not that adventurous when it comes to weapons. The normal rifleman class, or in a push, I'll go with the exotic weapons class if I'm feeling fruity that day. But there are so many options that each player can choose, and they all have completely unique and different styles of gameplay, especially when it comes to shooting the head off advancing enemies. Later on, we then got night modes added in. This was in the original Insurgency, but it wasn't in Sandstorm upon release, and that was something that I remember actively thinking it was missing. It was one of the most immersive game modes of the original Insurgency, and whilst it wasn't the funnest, I don't think, you have to do it every now and then. It is terrifying. There was nothing more frightening than no HUD, no music, just the sound of silence, with your squad sweeping in house after house with flashlights or night vision, not knowing where the enemy is going to come from, and all of a sudden around the corner you see a flashlight and it sprays into your eyes and you just have to yell out as you fire into the unknown aggressor. But it also works the other way, adding in a whole new element to when you're picking your loadouts. I like to choose night vision since obviously it's much more discreet, and when going in stealth it helps in that way. Unfortunately, it doesn't give you as good vision, and especially when you're doing night missions in towns, having lights or fire or explosions go off can be blinding, and you're always switching between your goggles and without. However, the other option is a flashlight, and boy, I'm terrified of them. They're great, they show a lot, but it is so giving away to your position. The enemies, even the AI enemies, can notice flashlights from afar and then target their positioning and their fire on that area. So weighing up how you go into night missions is completely different to anything that we had done in the previous game before that update. And one of the biggest updates we got is Outpost, a completely new game mode, standing to the last man with your teammates against waves of AI bots. And trust me, the AI bots are not like anything you will have ever played in any other game. They are savage. They will flank you. They will shout to each other. You'll be able to hear them. They'll throw grenades through windows. They'll sometimes even just strap bombs to themselves and run straight into the shop that you're trying to hide in and blow up, killing all your team. They are absolutely brutal. Nothing like I've ever seen in any game before. But you know the best thing about these game modes, the best thing about these updates that have been brought to the game? You see, New World Interactive are doing old school development. The reason I think they're doing development so right is because all these updates are free. I bought the game when it came out and I've not had to pay anything since. And the amount of new content, maps, updates, guns, skins, everything I've been able to get has been 100% free. Now, there are some things that you can pay for in the game, but these are cosmetic items. You can buy a winter skin on your gun or maybe even sand camo for your character, but it makes no difference throughout the actual game when you're playing. So you can jump into it. You can play the game for hours and hours and hours without having to spend a single penny more. If it's more your thing, you can buy these weapon skins for about £2 each, so they're not exactly ripping you off, and it makes no difference to the overall game anyway. But this doesn't take away from the fact that every content update that the developers have brought out has been completely and utterly free. And I don't know why game developers can't do this anymore. I don't know why they insist on having people pay for certain bits of content, new maps, new worlds, new game modes sometimes even. I don't mind cosmetic skins, and I don't think most people do. It just seems to be the way that gaming is going and the way that the developers see an extra bit of cash in the market. As long as cosmetic skins aren't completely overpriced, because at that point it just feels like you're taking advantage of whales, but I don't think many people have a problem with it since it doesn't change the overall game. But New World Interactive seem to be one of the OG developers that are still keeping it to the early 2000s, the early 2010s, when games used to just be games. You would buy it and that was it. And then you bring out new content, new updates if you wanted to, but you didn't have to pay for it. And I never have. And I've never felt the need to pay for it, and that's what's important. It's fine having extra bits and bobs in games that players can pay a little bit extra to get, but they shouldn't feel like they need to. And whilst many games I feel like you have to, Insurgency Sandstorm isn't one of them. Speaking more on content, did I mention there's mods built into the game? There's literally a mods tab that you can go and just download anything you want. These are all player-made mods, maps, game modes. They're incredible fun, and if you haven't already, you should go and check them out. Of course, you won't get the full multiplayer servers with mods on, but if you just want something to look at, some new content generated by players, and even want to have a go at making some mod stuff yourself, you can, and it's all built into the game. It's new content that is free of charge, and I love New World for it. In this era of pay to play or pay to progress, I think these kinds of developers should be cherished, and they should be praised for this sort of thing. Are there any other games that you've played that are like this, that have come out in the last few years that you buy and that's it? Whilst they're still adding content, they're not asking for anything extra. I think personally those kind of developers are quite rare, but please change my mind. Make sure you leave a comment down below. But please leave a like if you enjoyed this video, leave a dislike if you haven't, and subscribe if that's something that you'd like to do. But until then, I will see you in the next one.